Adelaide United defender Daniel Mullen will return from injury tomorrow night as the Reds try to shore up second spot in the A-League with a win over the Gold Coast. Mullen returns ahead of schedule from an ankle strain.
It's the United goal, and that's what a bit of luck there for Adelaide United, but they finally get it in off the woodwork, and Daniel Mullen has just made it 1-0 Adelaide United. Talk about damage control and rectifying the wrong. It's all happening right here at the Hindmarsh Stadium. 1-0 and the Reds have surged ahead.
It was actually going out. He's actually created the goal for the player, but then this is the one good moment for Adelaide in the first half. It's a brilliant header, really outstanding, punched header, beautiful speed on it, great direction. Well done to Daniel Mullen.
Take the kick. Adelaide United is slotted up nice and easy, and that's a second goal. This time it's Mullen again who's come to the party. My oh my, it's all coming down here for Campbelltown Soccer. Adelaide United now 2 goals ahead. And that's full time at the Hindmarsh Stadium as Adelaide United pull off one of the biggest upsets of the Champions League 2012 contest. The fans are excited. What a performance it has been by the Reds. Final score, it's 2-0 Adelaide United, or Adelaide United 2, Campbelltown Soccer 0.
G'day guys and welcome to the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. I'm your host Ellis Gelios. We're here today to preview our quarter final in the FFA Cup with Newcastle Jets, and I'm joined by one of Adelaide United's consistent starters at right back during our greatest ever years. He's played for a host of other A-League clubs as well and is a part of one of South Australia's most famous football families. Daniel Mullen, so good to get you in the studio, mate. Now, you just won the NPL on Saturday night with Campbelltown. The first thing I want to ask you, you won an ACL, the Asian Champions League with Western Sydney Wanderers 5 years ago in Saudi Arabia. Given the laws in Saudi Arabia, did you party harder last Saturday night than you did winning the Asian Champions League 5 years ago?
Yeah, you can probably tell by my eyes. I'm a little bit tired. Yeah, that was actually that's a funny one because obviously no alcohol in Saudi Arabia when we won that final, and the second leg was in Saudi too. So we had to go to the Australian Embassy to celebrate.
Seriously?
Yeah, we went to the Australian Embassy. They had, like Channel 9, all the news cameras and stuff there with us as well. Heaps of people, and then I remember the guy behind the bar was like, we had 1 drink, and some people might have got 2, but after that he closed the bar, put the thing down, locked it up, and everyone was going a little bit crazy saying, what are you doing? Come on, we just won the Champions League. At least give us a few more. And he was like, honestly, if you walk out of here now and they smell alcohol in your breath, locked up. So,
seriously?
So we didn't get to celebrate until pretty much that plane ride back into Sydney.
Wow, so, I love unearthing some of these stories.
Yeah.
So we are going to preview the game in the second stage of this interview. I want to focus quite a lot on Daniel Mullen's career, not only just at Adelaide United but abroad as well. But Daniel, given that you are the son of the legendary coach Joe Mullen, it would be remiss of me not to ask you at the very beginning, given that he wasn't just your coach and a father as well, and the fact that he brought you up, how much of an influence did he have early on, not only in your football career but just in life?
I was just about to say, he's had more of an influence in my life, I think, than in a football regard, and that's just because of the the morals and that he's driven into me as a person. So I live my life trying to shadow what he's done and the way that he goes about things, and it's just basic things like being respectful and treating everyone the same, and I think that also comes out on the football pitch as well. I think you can get angry, you can get fired up, but as soon as the final whistle goes, you can always see that the ones that are really respectful and down to earth and honest people. So away from football, massive influence. In terms of football, I mean, me and my brother, we grew up idolising him and idolising all of his Adelaide City teammates. We used to go to training sessions where I still remember Giuseppe. He's still at Adelaide City now, one of the trainers there. He helps with the the gear, the kit, all the washing and that. I remember back when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, me and my brother used to go to Adelaide City and we would collect balls with him, and we used to love it. And then Damien Murray, Alex Tobin, these sort of players, we'd be playing 2v2 at Adelaide City before, me and Damien versus Michael and Alex. And
wow.
That was the stuff that just sort of I guess started that fire. I used to go to bed every night, typing on a computer that didn't work. I want to be the best soccer player in the world. So it all just came from that. So the biggest influence he had, I guess, was just being him at the time. Obviously from there, he's shaped the sort of footballer that I am as well by the lessons that he's taught me. I was lucky enough to have him as a coach as well when I was a junior for quite a number of years, which I think is really important, to have a coach when you're starting out giving you the right education. I think there's a lot of coaches at the younger level that don't have the right education, and a lot of kids will not suffer, but they get brought into the proper way of playing football a little bit later on. Massive influence.
Really well said, mate. And having idolised your father, at what point did you know 100% that you also wanted to follow in his footsteps and be a footballer?
I reckon it was about around the age of 10. Obviously, I'd always wanted to. I dreamed about being in a World Cup and all that sort of stuff, and playing in Europe. But it's probably about 10 years old where I realised I was quite good at the sport. And then I also didn't want to work. So I thought, why not just kill two birds with one stone and try and be a professional footballer? Just put everything into it. And I remember having conversations with Dad when we moved to Melbourne. So after 10 years old, or when I was 10, we moved to Melbourne as a family, and we were there for
He was coaching Bulleen?
Yeah, he coached Bulleen, he coached Green Gully over there as well. And I remember, every game that we went to, if I had a poor game, he was never hard, but he was always fair, and he'd always say things like, look, if you want to be a professional, then this is the advice I want to give you.
Okay.
If you don't, no problem. That's fine. But between that 10 and 14 sort of years of age is when I sort of had it in my mind that I definitely wanted to be a professional footballer, and I was going to put everything into it.
Fantastic, mate. Well, I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning. So, funnily enough, you debuted for Adelaide against the Newcastle Jets in what is now the defunct pre-season cup in the prelude to the 2008-09 season. Gradually, you went on to become a regular starter at right back throughout what eventuated into an unforgettable season for the club. Take us back to the beginning of your professional career and how you initially assessed your value as a youngster in Aurelia Vidmar squad.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go to the Australian Institute of Sport in Canberra. I was there for 18 months, and after the first 12 months, I learnt a massive amount. Steve O'Connor was the coach, Ray Jr. was there as well as the assistant coach, had Paul Foster, and then we had Gibbo, so Jonathan Gibson. He was like the apprenticeship coach. But we had this great environment where, and it's such a shame that it's gone now, but we trained almost twice a day, every day. And we had the best facilities that you can imagine, and we all lived together. So we had a team there that, we had, James Holland, Luke DeVere, Matt German, Mark Birighitti, Andrew Redmayne.
An entire generation.
Yeah,
basically.
the team that we had, I remember the first week that we were there, we did a possession drill, and I remember Steve O'Connor stopping it, and he said, I want you guys to remember this possession drill, because in a year's time, I'm going to come back and you'll be so shocked. He goes, I do it every time. You'll be so shocked at how much you've improved. And I remember that possession drill at the start, it was so messy, and it was everyone just 100 mile an hour. Typical Australian football, 100 mile an hour, like putting in tackles, balls bouncing around everywhere. A lot of talking, a lot of yelling.
High on testosterone.
Yeah, exactly. And then I remember about 12 months later, we had this possession drill, and he didn't even say anything, but it just hit me, and I thought, this is brilliant. If you didn't have the ball, you couldn't get it back off the other team.
Yeah.
So to the point where the coach would have to stop it and then give the ball to the other team, and that would keep possession. And it was just a great environment. And I learnt so much there with him. It wasn't just technical either though. you know, he was a big, hard defender, and he taught me a lot about being a good centre back too. So I was a right back at the time, but I'd train as well with the centre backs.
Yeah.
He was still old school where, you know, he'd get some of the defenders together and just lump balls up and make sure that you could header the ball properly in a challenge.
Yeah, just your bread and butter.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I know that doesn't happen anymore, and you can see like some of the young players coming up now. They can't header a ball.
Yeah.
They can't do the basics of defending well anymore. We're all about total football, but you can still incorporate that, I think, into juniors and into young players. So we had a great mix there at the AIS, and I was fortunate enough to come back to Adelaide over the Christmas period. Didn't have a contract, but called Aurelio Vidmar. He said, come for 2 weeks, that's no problem, to help make up the numbers. And I remember just having a really good 2 weeks. I remember, you know, Nathan Burns was in the team, Bruce Gite, people that I was looking up to as young players at the time, and just making sure that I didn't get beaten, trying to do the right things, trying to make sure I won my duels, and from that got offered a professional contract. So it was still to this day, that first year at Adelaide United, I think it was the best team environment that I've ever been at, been a part of.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the players, it was, I mean, everyone, the coaching staff, the players, the backroom staff. I mean, we used to go into the staff, the offices after almost every training session. The boys would just come in, say hi to everyone, you know, give the girls a kiss on the cheek, give the guys a handshake. And,
is that so?
Almost every session we'd do that, yeah, and then we'd all go on, you know, get lunch together, and it was just a real family club. It was a brilliant time, and when you have that off the pitch, it was just so easy to do your thing and to improve on the pitch as well. So it's just a really good time, and a perfect sort of entrance into professional footballer for a young player like myself.
Brilliant stuff, mate. And a lot of people that I've had that were a part of that squad that have come on this show have always highlighted that point. The fact that, you know, we were a salary cap squad, obviously fairly thin in terms of depth as well. And going into the riches of Asia and the Club World Cup, there was no way that it could have happened if there wasn't that spirit that there was among the squad in that time. So, it's great to hear you emphasise that point. So as previously mentioned, 2008-09 was an incredible season where the club famously competed on 3 different fronts, those being the Asian Champions League, the Club World Cup, and obviously the A-League. I think I can safely say the magnificent ACL clash against Rivaldo's Bunyod at Cooper's Stadium when we won 3-0 against all the odds stands out as possibly the most significant moment in your career, at least from an Adelaide United perspective. To set the scene, you were just 18, and given the defensive injuries we had, Vidmar threw you straight into the starting 11. Many fans believe this, your first ever start for the club, was also your greatest ever performance in a red shirt. Here's what you once said upon reflecting on that night, Daniel Mullen. You told Adelaide United's official website, the semi-final in 2008 against Bunyod was my first start for Adelaide United. Being 18 at the time, it was an experience I'll never forget. The atmosphere literally brought goosebumps to my skin. We were never meant to win that game. They had a glamour side, including Rivaldo, and Zico was their coach. However, the crowd that night was unbelievable and gave us that extra spark and fight. I genuinely believe a major reason we won 3-0 was largely due to the crowd and the noise they generated that night. So Danny, I want to hear all about how you prepared yourself for what was to be such a momentous occasion and how you ensured you weren't overawed given all the talk of your inexperience in the media prior to kick-off.
First thing, I think I was on the toilet for most of the day. I mean, yeah, like you said, 18 years old, and I remember the day before Vidi came up to me and he said, look, I'm going to start you at right back, and the reason I'm going to start you is because I think you're good enough and I think you're ready. He goes, I could easily, you know, wait and maybe try and give you a few minutes here and there and then maybe sort of blood you into it slowly, but he goes, what better way? He goes, I'll chuck you in. He goes, you got nothing to lose. He goes, the only advice I can give you is the first 4 or 5 touches you have, just do the simple things, just keep it. If it means that you get it at right back and then you play it straight back to the centre back, just do that, trust me. It'll get you into the game and then you start to feel it and you'll then forget about the crowd and expectation. And then watching that game over, like I've actually watched it back a few times. I think my first 10 touches, I got the ball from the centre back, didn't even look forward, just got it and just gave it straight back. Okay. So it was a very it was a really good piece of advice, and I reckon. Well, I know as well that he gave the centre backs. He also said to them, look, make sure you just get Dan into the game early as well. Give him a touch, and then make sure he's not overthinking things. So the team really helped me as well. And if you look at that team, we had so much experience in the team.
Absolutely.
It was a great bunch of boys. We were very well structured. We knew how to play, especially against a team like that. Defensively, compact and hard to beat. And then we thought, if we can just even get a clean sheet or maybe jag a goal, it'll put us in good stead for the next game. So to come away with that 3-0, it was just absolutely perfect. And that's also, once we got that first goal, I still remember that the crowd was just phenomenal. It was still the loudest I've ever heard.
Agreed.
High Marsh or Coopers now. It was just brilliant. I came off, I think it was about 8-9 minutes ago. Because I just cramped everywhere, my whole body just seized up and cramped, and I remember trying to walk around the pitch and everyone was sort of clapping me as I walked off, and so I was like, oh, may as well just clap them back then. So I ended up clapping back, and the boys gave me a bit of stick for that after, saying that I milked it walking halfway around the pitch. But yeah, it was just a great night of football. The hardest thing is, during the day you don't realise that you got a whole day to prepare, and if the game was 12 o'clock in the afternoon, it'd be perfect because you'd wake up, you'd eat, and you'd be there. But
no time to think about it.
When the game's at 7 or 7:30 or 8 o'clock, it's like you're just sitting there in your room and you're constantly thinking about the game, and it's so easy to to overplay it as well. So I was lucky where I had my family there, and they were trying to take my mind off of it as well. And it was just it was a great it was a great experience.
Surely your entire career as a junior combined would not have matched the adrenaline that you had in that 75 minutes.
No, definitely not. Nah. I mean, you couldn't hear yourself speak before the game started. And then, I wasn't lying. I think the crowd had a massive part to play in that result. I still remember Corny as well going over Rivaldo once when he tackled him, and he was giving it to him on the ground, and Corny's the nicest bloke ever.
Love Corny.
Yeah, off the pitch, he would never do that. But that's just the type of team we had. We're just winners, and I think as well that's something that I think the young players in the team at the time as well were the same. So they were also winners, and I think if you weren't at that time, I think football's changed quite a bit now. But back then, if you weren't a winner and you weren't ready to get stuck in, the older players would have destroyed you, and you wouldn't have had a chance. Whereas I think now, the older players are a little bit more, a bit more.
That's just the culture of today.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so back then it was just a team full of just men. We had 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 19-year-olds that were men as well, and they had to be, because if they weren't, they'd get eaten alive at training. So it was really good. Really
well said, mate. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I'm sure you don't regret the fact that we had a lot of leaders in that team. And I've spoken to, I remember speaking to Cornflakes, and he said the exact same thing. Like the Valcanisses and Costanzos of the world, especially if he wasn't on song, those first few sessions when he'd been at the club as a trialist, he was hearing it straight away. And obviously it couldn't have done anything other than benefit you going forward.
I remember I used to go to training for weeks on end, rocking up in the car park, just nervous as anything. Needed to just running into the toilet straight away because I was on the way to training just thinking I can't miss a pass. Can't miss a pass. I play it to Lucas Pantelis' right foot, and you'll say I want it to my left foot. Those little details, and when you're a young player, you hate them. You hate them at the time, but then it makes a difference in a game. When the ball has to be played, a metre in advance of someone instead of a metre behind them, you end up doing that because you've been set such high standards. So it was a really tough start, but a great start. And I think Matthew Leckie, he won't mind me saying this, but when he came to the club, for a good 3 months, he just got absolutely smashed by players, coaching staff. To the point where, I came up to him one session, I said, look mate, don't worry, they're telling you this because they rate you. They think you're a good player. If they didn't, they wouldn't be on your back. And I could see he was quite, upset about it. And I said, just make sure you keep trying to do the right thing. And then, literally 3 weeks later, he was just unbelievable. Couldn't stop him. And bang, straight away, coach, instead of having a go on him, they're just like, well, yeah, he's doing it now. It's perfect. So it's just, you know, I think you have to have a little bit of that tough love.
For sure.
And then you get out of that, you know, you get out of your comfort zone and you just go to a new level. So.
That's absolutely fascinating, given he's now gone on to probably become the most successful Socceroo, having played at Adelaide United as his first ever club. So I'm really interested in hearing that. That's absolutely amazing. Now, Daniel, throughout your time at the club, you played under 3 different managers, Vidmar, Rinnie Coolin and John Cosmina. There's also no doubt you received invaluable mentoring from some of the club's greatest defenders over a period of half a decade. Which players at Adelaide had the biggest influence on you and why?
I think there was a really good patch there where I wasn't in the team, and Michael Valkanis was also had started to get
bit on the outer.
Yeah, a little bit on the outer, and I remember a lot of so you know, if you have your starting 11 and they're doing you know, sort of patterns of play, starting from the goalkeeper, you always have. You always be underloaded on the other team. So like there might be 2 centre backs, or even maybe a back 4, and then maybe 2 midfielders against maybe the whole, you know, starting 11, just so that they can get a bit of flow. And I remember this one training session, me and Mickey Valkanis with the 2 centre backs, and they just kept, you know, getting balls in and crossing, and I was getting frustrated because, you know, you don't want to concede goals even in those type of things. And
absolutely.
And he came. I remember he said to me, he goes, "Mate, this here right now is invaluable." He goes, "This is where you learn the biggest lessons that you can learn." He goes, "Make sure we're doing the right thing. We're overloaded here. If we cannot concede here, then when we come out onto a pitch and it's 11v11, we'll have no trouble at all." So he sort of walked me through positioning and that, and where I should be, and you know, when I should be talking to him. How we should be talking to our fullbacks, and yeah, he had a really big influence on me as a player when he was at Adelaide United. To the point where when he retired, he actually asked me if I could have his number 5 shirt. So I was number 16 for Adelaide, and when he retired, he wanted me to have his number 5 shirt. So massive influence he was as a player when he was at Adelaide United. Never had him as a coach, but yeah, as a player, really good.
It's terrific, fantastic stuff. So you played your first and only Socceroos match in 2009 in an Asian Cup qualifier against Kuwait. A fair few of the Adelaide United lads around this time were in that squad as well. Is representing your country the greatest honour you've had in what's been a stellar career?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, the Asian Champions League win with Western Sydney was up there. Obviously the Adelaide United campaign as well, where we made the final against Canberra Osaka, was up there. And then representing my country at, you know, under 20 level, Olympics, under 23 level was also massive. But yeah, that one cap for the Socceroos, that's if you had said to me when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old that yeah, you'll be a Socceroo one day, then I would have. It would have made it all worth it. All those training sessions when, you know, I was in the summer, 40 degrees over in Melbourne, and everyone's out doing whatever they want. And me and Dad are running around the park trying to get fit. Yeah. You know, that made it all worth it. So, yeah, great honour. And something that I'm really, really proud of.
Exceptional stuff. So in July 2012, after 79 appearances for the club, you headed to China. Tell us how the move came about and what your expectations were ahead of a move to a nation that was unfamiliar for Australian footballers at the time.
It's a funny story because we had a game in the Asian Champions League again. So I think it was the 3rd campaign that I've been a part of.
I might just note, and this will be in the video, but you did score 2 goals, so 2 great goals in that campaign, I believe it was, against Gamba.
Yeah, so this is the game, against Canberra Osaka.
Yeah.
I think it was the round of 16, the round of 16 to get us into the quarterfinals. And I played as a right back that game, scored 2 goals from set pieces. And then after the game, Zenon Caravello was in the ice baths, and I was in the ice baths with him, and all the boys were in there, and he goes, "Danny Mullen, see you, mate, you're going to Asia." And I said, "What?" He goes, "That game has just made your whole career." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Trust me, that game there has just made your whole career worth it." And I was like, I didn't think anything of it at the time. I just laughed, and a few other people laughed as well, but he was adamant, he was so serious. And he was right. So, you know, big games like that, Australian defender scoring 2 goals, round of 16, Asian Champions League. If that happens now, guarantee you other clubs are watching and saying, yep, we're gonna get that guy.
Absolutely.
So that's how it came about, and I know that because when I spoke to the coach, he said we were watching that game and we were looking at you, Nigel Bogard and John McCain as a defender to come in straight away to play. You scored 2 goals, you were young, you ticked all the boxes, so yeah, we went for you.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's that's sort of how it came about. What to expect? Had no idea. I'd never watched a game in China before. Obviously, when I signed for the club and I had an interview over there, I said, yeah, it's a great league and it's a great chance to meet. But honestly, never heard of the place. Never watched a game in China. What I did know was that the team that I was going to had one of my childhood heroes playing for the team, so Fabio Rochenbach.
Okay, Premier League
so,
years.
Yeah, so I'm a Middlesbrough. My dad was born in Middlesbrough. He was a Middlesbrough hero. So he was in the team, and I ended up being roommates with him, and he was my best mate over there. So
the dream continued for you.
It was crazy, and then also Seydou Keita.
Yeah.
So literally came from Barcelona. He was in the team, and then there was another guy as well, Peter Utaka, who is still probably the best player I've ever played with.
Really?
Unbelievable player, still playing over in Japan now, but I tried to get him over to Australia when I came back, and he just said, what's the bonuses like? And I said, we don't get bonuses in Australia. He said, I'm not even going to consider it then. So, great experience. You know, just an offer that I couldn't turn down. I mean,
for obvious reasons.
I was in the process of, I pretty much agreed to another 4-year contract at Adelaide United.
Yeah, right.
I had a meeting with Michael Petrillo days before, had the contract.
We should just put on record that 4 years is rare for the club to give out. So it showed that they were very much willing to invest in you.
Yeah.
Given your stocks were well on the rise and you were quite young still.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of too many 4-year contracts being given ever.
Yeah, and I'm a very family orientated sort of guy, and I love Adelaide, I love my home, I love my family, and I was ready to sign it. And then this came up, and to be honest, I still said no to China first, because I was gonna sign with this contract at Adelaide, and they ended up coming back a week later and offered a bit more to myself and to the club as well. So the club got quite a decent transfer fee as well, and it was just a matter of saying, well, I'm probably not going to get this again in my career, so may as well make the most of it now.
Yeah, and I think you made the right decision. I don't think anyone will begrudge you for that. So in 2014, you astonishingly concluded some unfinished business of yesteryear by featuring the Wanderers as starting team in their 2-legged ACL final against Al Hilal. The Wanderers went on to lift the trophy, which was unprecedented for any Australian side. Describe the feeling of overcoming such unfavourable odds, and whether your experiences in Asia with Adelaide United were ever in the back of your mind during this famous cup run with the Wanderers?
They were throughout it, yeah. We started off that Asian Champions League campaign with a loss. So our first game we lost to, I think it was Ulsan Hyundai at home. And I'd only just come to the club, so I just signed from China.
Yeah.
Me and Anthony Golek actually together, and Gogol Mabratu. And because of the salary cap, I actually couldn't play the first 6 months of my contract with the A-League side. I had to only play the Asian Champions League.
Okay.
And then I could play the next season with the A-League side. So I was just training, trying to get up to match fitness only for this Asian Champions League campaign. So it was quite a unique situation. Didn't play in that first game when we lost, and watching on, I thought I could make a difference here. And the second game I played in, and I pretty much played in every single game up until the 2-leg final, where played the first game and then didn't play the second leg, which was really odd as well before the game, because up until that point, played almost every single game, and played the first leg, we won 1-0, and didn't actually find out I wasn't playing until we were in the hotel going to the game. So we're in the meeting, and my name was up on the subs bench. So I just thought we better get a result here. I'll be absolutely fuming. So we ended up winning, and didn't bother me one bit. I think everything happens for a reason, so I think Popper must have known what he was doing in that game. But I mean, again, it was very similar to Adelaide. We defended really well throughout that whole campaign, didn't concede many goals, and we just made it hard for teams to score. And we were always going to get chances, and that's what we relied on. I mean, even in that first-legged game, we just defended really well. We had one chance, scored that. Tommy Juric scored the goal.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And I mean, again, the crowd there was ridiculous too. And the crowd actually over in Saudi Arabia, I got videos on my phone, but we couldn't speak like this before the game. They were that loud. And the game, I think, was at 7 o'clock at night. We were in the hotel at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, having a rest, and we're getting messages saying that it's already full. So the stadium was already full at 12 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
People climbing over the walls of the stadium to try and get in. It was just crazy. Our bus ride, they closed. It was about a 30-minute drive on highways. They closed all the roads to the game, so that only our bus could get there. We had about 9 police cars in front of us, 9 behind, and then 4 either side, getting us there with army personnel. It was just ridiculous, like the craziest thing I've ever been a part of. And yeah, to then win it there, it was just, I mean, yeah, it was an experience I'll never ever forget.
No one's ever going to say that Western Sydney Wanderers team of 2014 didn't deserve to win that Champions League, but at full time, you must have been convinced there's a God.
Yes. Yeah.
Given the crowd, the nature of the crowd, the hostility, and some of the decisions that went for you in that second leg, that was quite an incredible experience. I've got to say, I'll never forget it. Well, I've never seen an Australian team be a part of that kind of situation ever.
I just thing I remember the most about it was Ante Kovic pulling off like 5 worldies, like saves.
Great individual performances.
Yeah, unbelievable. So I think that second leg, I mean, yeah, we dug deep and we defended just like, I mean, it wasn't pretty, but we just put our body on the line. But I think Ante Kovic in that second leg was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the foundation was built, before that, the first leg, the semi-finals, the quarter-finals. I think it was just an unbelievable, it was an unbelievable group. Looking back, I think we had about 8 defenders that were all, starting defenders in the squad.
Yeah.
So, we're having 4 starting defenders on the bench every game. It was just, when you have that sort of personnel available, I think that helps as well.
Very Tony Popovich squad.
It was, yeah. I mean, yeah, the season after, I think he got rid of about 16 players, but that was that was him. Yeah, he got the best out of what he had. He got every last little drop, and then when he thought I've got the most out of him, it was time to move on. So, yeah.
Sounds familiar. So, along with moves to Melbourne, Victory, and Wellington Phoenix, you played 47 games for Newcastle after moving there in 2015. Can you enlighten us about the experience you had there, as they are our opponent in tomorrow night's quarter final?
Love Newcastle. I think it's apart from Adelaide, the most beautiful place I've ever lived. Beautiful people, just very much like a beach town. It's everything I love about Adelaide. Really like going down to Grange and Henley. That's just Newcastle.
Yeah,
the whole thing's just like that. Relaxed
vibe.
Just a very relaxed vibe. So got some great mates. Some of my best mates are still there at the moment. In terms of the club, yeah, it was a hard one because I had so much potential, and I went there because Phil Stubbins got the job, and I'd worked with him at Adelaide United,
of course.
And he was calling me for a couple of weeks, saying that he really wanted me to come because he wanted to make a few changes, and that was a time when I was at Western Sydney, and after the Champions League run, and then for whatever reason, Popper didn't see me in his future plans. So I had some offers to go back overseas, but like I said to you before, I just love Australia. Love being here, and I'd done 2 years over in China where it was all I was thinking was just get back to Australia. And again, I would have all through my career, before I ever went anywhere, I was always saying to my agent John Grimward, get me back to Adelaide. If you can get me back to Adelaide, I'll go there. If not, then we'll assess things. So it took a couple of weeks, but ended up making the decision to go there. Funnily enough, what I did was I still had a lot of belief in my ability, so instead of, they wanted me to sign a 1 or 2 year contract, and there was 3 months left of the season, so I said, well, all I want is a 3-month contract. Give me 3 months, and then I'll show everyone what I can do, and then I'll move on from there.
Wow, I've never heard of that before.
So I signed a 3-month contract, and after about 10 games, the whole time the club was coming to me saying they wanted to re-sign me. After about 10 games, I loved it. Loved the place. I thought it was just the most beautiful place, and from there ended up signing a 2-year contract, and then the rest is history. But initially my plan was to go there for 12 games and move on. So it didn't turn out like that. I was there for about 3 years in the end, and loved every minute of it.
Fantastic, mate. Finally, you returned to your hometown in 2018 to play for Campbelltown City in the SA NPL, where it feels as though the club has experienced endless success under your father, Joe Mullen, who is, of course, the gaffer. You just won the NPL Final Series last Saturday night, of course. Briefly talk to us about what it's been like playing for such a local powerhouse.
It's since that first year of Adelaide United, when I said it was the best team culture, the best team environment that I've had. This has been my most enjoyable season of football. It has been absolutely brilliant. The training sessions are first class, highest intensity, on par with some of the highest intensity that I've had at A-League level. The group of boys is just phenomenal. When you talk about expanding the A-League and or having a second division, if people came out to watch us train, I know from first-hand experience, because I've been there 10 years playing at the highest level in Australia. I mean, 90% of our squad but should be playing at that level. You got people in our team that, Adam Pishkineri, for example, his feet are just phenomenal, and
former youth team captain.
Yeah. If you look at that, not just the starting 11 either, we got 3 or 4 players on the bench that are also making a real impact, and it's just been a really professional environment in a non-professional league. It's credit to the boys, credit to the coaching staff, credit to the club as well, because they've backed the coaching staff and the players to have the season that we've had. I mean, they could have turned around and not giving out the money to keep players like Yohi, who came back from Japan. They got him back from Japan so we could keep him, and unfortunately he had to go back, so he didn't play in the finals for us because of his visa issues. But the club's been brilliant. It's just a really family orientated club, and it's been so enjoyable this season.
And you said before, if more people came out and saw what was on show there, that they'd be convinced, or as convinced as you are, that the majority of the squad should be playing at the highest level. Effectively now, those people don't need to come and see you, because Melbourne City gave you that endorsement after the FFA Cup game, in which you gave them a massive run for their money, literally. They came out after that game and said you were by far and away the best NPL club across the country. So, I mean, the proof's in the pudding, and it just must be remarkable to think, looking back on the season you've had, that you are part-timers. At the end of the day. Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, these guys come straight from work to training 3 times a week, never complain. We do extras after every session. Pre-season started for us back in December last year. First day of pre-season, we decided to do extras after training as a group, and we haven't missed a session since now. So the mentality of the group is just is brilliant. It's a professional mentality. It's a professional outfit for a non-professional club. And people come, they'll watch games on the weekend, and they'll look and they'll say, they're not that good. But I've also experienced, as an A-League team, when you go on, you train on these lesser pitches that aren't just perfect. I've seen training sessions that have been deplorable at A-League level, because they just people can't play on those pitches. We get that every week. These players, they deal with that every week, and every single night at training. but they don't complain. They just get on with it, and it changes the way that you have to play a little bit as well. You know, you have to play a little bit more direct. It's got to be a little bit more ugly. But yeah, get that team onto a beautiful Cooper's pitch like we did on the weekend, and it's a very, very, very good team.
And it's such an important point as well, one that often goes, you know, unnoticed and not really acknowledged. So, you know, you've really summed that up really well. Danny, we're going to get into the preview for the A-League game. So, previewing our game against the Newcastle Jets Tuesday evening at Coopers Stadium. 7 p.m. kickoff. As always, you can catch all the action on Fox Sports. Now, at the time of filming, we don't have any squad listings to report, although we aren't aware of any long-term injuries from an Adelaide United perspective. Recent results for Adelaide United. Our last competitive win was over Olympic FC in the round of 16. However, we've since played an understrength Adelaide City at the Adelaide Pirates' home ground, Taparoo there, and we beat them 6-0. But I wouldn't take too much out of that game because Adelaide City fielded a very young and inexperienced team. As for Newcastle, they beat Edgeworth Eagles comfortably 5-1 in their last FFA Cup game, though they've played, importantly, 2 friendlies since then against Brisbane and Perth. They beat Perth in a penalty shootout in this mini tournament that they're holding in Queensland, but lost to the Raw 3-1. Now, it looks to be an uphill task for the Jets, Danny. While we've never lost an FA Cup game at home, won 5 of those at Cooper Stadium, the Jets have never made it this far since 2014, the first year of the competition, which was your first season there as well. As a former pro, tell us how difficult it'll be for the Jets to keep the thought of this dreadful statistic during the preparation for the game out of their mind.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a negative looking back with those stats, but I think at this time of the season, it's more about you know, optimism and using this as an important step to get ready as well for the season ahead. A lot of coaches, I mean, as a player, if you have a friendly game on the weekend, it can be quite a hard task to get up for it. But if you got an FFA Cup game, it's just like it's a normal game. You know, it's a competitive game. So there'll be excitement. There'll be optimism. There'll be you know, wanting to see what they've been working on in training. I don't think they'll have any negativity towards the game in the back of their mind from the stats that you've mentioned. I think they'll be ready to come here and give Adelaide a real good hard go.
So the Jets' newest recruit is Panamanian attacker Abdiel Arroyo, and he looks to be under an injury cloud along with a former colleague of yours in Ben Kantarowski. For Adelaide, it's really all about whether home fans will see new striker Christian Opseth make his official debut for the club. Do you throw him straight into the fray, or does Gert-Jan Verbeek once again opt to trust youngster Al Hassan Toure, who you've marked in the NPL this season, who's obviously made a blistering start to his Adelaide career?
I think it depends specifically on Opseth and how he is physically. So I know he's been here for a while now, but I also know that the coach said that he wasn't ready yet for past games where I know I've seen that happen before with foreigners. They'll come in and they do need a little bit of time to get used to the training loads, to get used to the pitches, because
they're harder. People
don't realise that the pitches are harder here, and it actually makes it puts a lot more stress on your joints and your muscles. Totally. So until you get used to that, and then until you get used to your teammates and the way that the coach wants to play, the physical demands of the system as well. So a lot of coaches will have, you know, I know Marco Kurtz, the demands that he expected of his players was massive.
Yeah.
So it will all depend on the coach if he thinks that he's ready to play right now, 90 minutes at 100% intensity. I would say if he's not, then
don't risk it.
Don't risk it. That's what I'll be thinking. Yeah. And I mean, you said before, like Toure, we played against him during the season. Very handy player. He's got a presence about him. He's a big boy. He's quick. He has good feet. He's got a few goals now, so he's got confidence. So I would have no issue chucking someone like him in as well. And the other thing with that is, you know, the defenders for Newcastle, they don't really know what to expect either.
Totally.
And that can be a positive for Adelaide too.
Yeah, very interesting. So the Jets failed to fire last season, Danny, after making the 2017 A-League Grand Final. How much will Ernie Merrick be looking to prioritise the FFA Cup, in your opinion?
I think he'll be treating it as a competition that they need to win. Yeah, I think when you get the thing with the FFA Cup is if you're going to play in it and you win your first 1 or 2 games, there's no point trying to just take it as another game. You want to win, because if you're not in the final and winning the final, then it's almost it can almost be like a little bit of a distraction as well that you don't want. So you're either better off going out first round and then not worrying about it and then solely focusing on the A-League, or you're better off going and winning it. And I know it's easier said than done, but Ernie Merrick will be wanting to win this competition 100%.
So it's a real all or nothing kind of approach, and also given that they really underachieved last season, it's quite important that he gets at least close to winning it this time.
I'd say so, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. So this will be Gertie and Verbeek's first competitive game against A-League opposition. In all your experiences, have you ever seen coaches show that they're under extra strain on match day when it's the first proper test that they have in charge of an A-League squad?
I think most coaches at the top level are able to hide their emotions quite well.
Okay.
I think it's important if you're going to be in charge of a professional group of men. I think that's a trait that's quite important, to be able to not hide your emotions, but to not let the emotions get the best of you at times. And I have seen it before where coaches get overstressed and then they start pointing the finger at players, and that's something that you don't want to get into, especially if a coach starts to get stressed and then they take it out on their players. It's a very, very, very steep slope downhill, and it
is that so?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So if, let's just say a team's gone 3-0 down into the sheds at halftime, if the coach has technically said everything right in his pre-game talk, there should never be a reason to point the finger, even if there's been a clear individual error. You think the experienced coaches that are worth their salt, they should know how to be able to deal with that behind closed doors and not sort of openly blame a single player kind of thing.
Look, there's a time and place.
Yeah.
There is a time when a coach has to just go off his rocket, and it might be directed at a player, but if you're doing that when you first come into a club, it can send the wrong message. And also if you're doing that every week, it can then also send the wrong message too. I had a coach, I won't say who it was, but he used to come into the change rooms before the game, and he would put on the board our starting lineup, and he would say, this is who they have in the midfield, this is what they're really good at, you guys need to be more like them.
Okay.
So before the game, the players that would leave the meeting and would look at each other and be like, is this guy serious? He doesn't even want us in our team. And then that was because I know he was under fire from the fans and from the club. So instead of dealing with that in a positive way, he started to blame the players, and it didn't work out well for him either. So time and place. I think at this time of the season, I think it should. Personally, I think it should be all about positivity and making sure that the team is united and one and a family, and sticking together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How do you see both sides faring this A-League season, and what's your prediction for tomorrow night?
I think it's hard to say until you really see the team with all the players available playing, because one player can make a huge difference. We saw that with Newcastle when Roy O'Donovan was out. Massive difference to when he came back into the squad. So at the moment with Adelaide, there's a couple of players, or there's at least that Osbeth that we haven't seen, and then they're talking about maybe another foreigner coming in. So until that's two big players that will make a difference. So it's really hard to say. I think it's going to be a very different way of playing to last season with the two coaches. I think Marco Kurtz did a fabulous job with Adelaide the last couple of seasons. With the players that he had available, I think he got the best out of most of them, if not all of them. They're a very, very fit team, worked really hard for each other. So it'll be interesting to see how Adelaide play this season. It's going to be, it's going to be good to see. And then in terms of Newcastle, I think when they got to the final against Melbourne Victory, I think that was their season where they had to win something, because I think everything just sort of fell for them. They had the perfect team at the perfect time and played the perfect way. Other teams couldn't really match it. Whereas I think you saw last season they didn't quite have that same luck, and they didn't quite have the same players in the right positions at the right time. And I think it could be another season for them where they might miss out on the finals.
Interesting stuff. So given that you played for both clubs, you would have played for each side against the other on many occasions over both spells at Adelaide and Newcastle. Do any particular games featuring both these teams stand out in your mind for any particular reason at all?
Like you said before, my first actual game for Adelaide, it was in a friendly in pre-season cup against Newcastle. I remember that one fondly because, not fondly, I remember it distinctly because I remember after the game coming off and I marked Matt Thompson.
Okay.
He was playing as a left winger at the time, played as a right back, and I remember coming off thinking I'm never going to be up to this standard.
Really?
Yeah, I remember thinking that they were just so much fitter, faster, stronger, and better. But it's funny how things changed. 6 weeks later, felt no problem, felt comfortable. So that was definitely one. And then the last game that I remember here at Cooper Stadium, playing against Adelaide, had to play as a right back against Nikola Milusnic, quickest player in the league.
For sure.
So that was a tough game. I think we played really well that game against Adelaide. I think we drew 1-1 in the end. But it was good because I just remember it. That was, I think, the time where I started to get that itch to come back home.
Sure.
I remember coming, to the hotel and just looking around and seeing Adelaide changing a little bit, and I thought, it's time for me to come back home. And ended up being another 2 years, but it's all good now.
Well, there you go. So I've got some fan questions here, Danny, just before we wrap up. So Chris Adams asks, what's your career highlight, and describe what it was like to play in the Club World Cup, more specifically for Adelaide, of course, in 2008, but also for the Wanderers?
Yeah, the Club World Cup was definitely the biggest highlight of my favourite memory was scoring in the game against
Waitakere?
Yeah.
Bullet of a header, mate.
Yeah.
I haven't seen too many like that, to be honest.
Yeah, that was just sort of shut my eyes and then just went for it. That was massive. That was, I got a big picture framed up at home of that game when I was celebrating, and to be honest, that was probably one of my highlights as well, that game, because it was Club World Cup, over in Japan, treated like kings. Manchester United are there. Ended up playing against Gamba Osaka, and I think we lost. Yeah, we lost against the Gamba 1-0, and if we had won that game, we would have played against Man United.
We all remember how devastating it was.
And we played well too. I remember Robbie Eunice coming on and hitting a volley and
just missing.
Travis Dodd having a few really good chances. So
remarkable how much we'd improved since the second leg of the Asian Champions League.
That's right. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play in that game because I was over with the under-20s with the Australian team, and they wouldn't let me come back for it, which was disappointing. But it was a great experience.
And for the Wanderers as well, you played in the Club World Cup.
Yeah, that was just as good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that first campaign with Adelaide was definitely a bit better.
Awesome stuff. So Darren Clark wants to know how much you've enjoyed being in Campbelltown this year, and I know you've touched on that, and he wishes you all the best for your game this weekend in the National Imperial in the final series.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. As I said before, absolutely love this season. Been my most enjoyable season that I've had probably since that first year of Adelaide United.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been just a brilliant season. Hopefully we can cap it off now by getting a good result over in Brisbane on the weekend.
Totally. And Bevan Jones asks, what in your opinion makes your dad Joe Mullen the NPL's best coach?
For me it's an easy one. It's just team management. So being able to get the best out of his players. It can be hard dropping people, telling people they're not required at the club, but he seems to do it in a way where they still respect him. And,
well said.
I think that's his biggest asset for sure.
Danny, you bought the kit in that you wore during your first season as a professional. It was the 2008-09 season. It will live long in the memory of all Adelaide United fans.
Yep.
That's from the grand final against Melbourne Victory.
Yep.
I believe we lost the game 1-0.
Yep.
Very, very frustrating to be there again for the second time in 3 years and lose. But anyhow, mate, it's been fantastic getting you in the studio. Thanks so much for dropping in. We wish you all the very best. One of, I think without doubt, our most proudest homegrown products to ever come out of Adelaide United's playing squad, and I'm really appreciative of you coming in. All the very best this weekend. You've got the Queensland Lions in the NPL in the National Series. It would be a great injustice if you don't go on and beat them and really top off what's been an amazing campaign. We wish you all the very best, and it's great to have you back in Adelaide, mate.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate.